Okay, we're going to begin with the Perek Vav Pasuk Aleph, the new story. So we look over here by Asu B'nai Yisrael Hara Be'einei Hashem. B'nai Yisrael, after living for 40 years under the control of Devorah and Barak, they did a beautiful job, not doing any Averot, giving Nachat to Hashem, giving Hashem great feelings of how the Jewish people are doing what they're supposed to do. But at some point, after a while, they started slowly to start doing Avirot, and Hashem sends an enemy. Name Hashem biyad Midyan. So Midyan, this time it's Midyan. We had in the last parak, it was Canaan. Canaan was the enemy. We have to know the enemies. The enemy this time is Midyan. But here we learn that they did not rule the Jews for that long. They only ruled us for 7 years. But let's see what they did to us. Vataz yad Midyan al Yisrael, and the hand of Midyan was very strong over the Jewish people. In order to survive from the Midyanim, Jewish people had to make underground tunnels and caves in order to store their fruits and vegetables and wheat and barley and kernels, everything that they grew on their farms. The only way they could survive was by saving them and hiding them in these underground caves. Now, why is that? Because look at what the next pasuk says. V'haya im zera Yisrael. When the Jewish people planted, v'ala Midyan ve'amaleku b'nei kedem v'alu alav. V'yachanu aleihem v'yashchitu et yivul haaretz ad bo'acha azem v'lo yashiru micha b'Yisrael v'sev v'shor v'chamor. The enemy would come and camp on the farms after the Jews just planted seeds in them. And because of that, they destroyed all the crops, and the animals of the Jewish people were dying because the animals had nothing to eat. Kihem umiknehem ya'alu ve'aleihem yavo k'diyar belarov. Like a swarm of locusts, the enemy would come with their camels, with their cattle, and their tents, and just plant themselves literally on the farms that were just seeded by the Jewish people. You couldn't count how many of them and how many camels they had. They came to the land to destroy it. And Bnei Yisrael became very, very poor. Became very poor because of Midyan. Vayizaku Bnei Yisrael el Hashem. And they cried out to Hashem. Now let's take a look on the next page and take a look at what kind of notes we should be writing. So we want to write Perek Vav Psukim Aleph to Yud. These notes are going to be on the first 10 Psukim. And our first bullet point is the Jews begin to sin again. Hashem gives them to Midyan for 7 years. You can pause the recording now, and you can write it down. The enemy came with their camels like a swarm of locusts and trampled on the Jews' farms. Jewish people hid all their crops underground in caves. Many animals of the Jews dies. We became very poor. And now let's go back and see what happens next. Vayehi ki zaku b'nei Yisrael Hashem alodot Midyan. When it was the Jewish people cried out because of what Midian was doing to them, Vayishlach Hashem ish navi el b'nei Yisrael. Hashem sent a prophet to b'nei Yisrael. Vayomer lahem ko amar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. The Navi said to the Jewish people, the prophet said, Anochi aleiti etchem miMitzrayim v'yotzi etchem mibeit abadim. I took you out of Mitzrayim and I took you out of slavery. V'atzil etchem miMitzrayim, and I saved you from Mitzrayim. V'yad kol lochatechem, and from all your oppressors. V'agaresh etchem mipnechem, I drove them away from you before you. Ve'enna lachem et artzam, and I gave you their land. That's referring to the land of Israel. Hashem drove out the enemies and gave us their land. and we lived in Eretz Yisrael. V'omra lachem, but I said to you, Ani Hashem Elokechem, I'm your God. V'lo tiru et Elohei Amorei. You should not worship the gods of the Amorrees, or any other nation for that matter. Asher atem yoshim be'artzam, who lives around your nation, your land. V'lo shematem b'koli. So this, says the prophet, is the reason why the Jewish people had to suffer. And that's our last bullet over here. A prophet came and told them that this happened because they worshipped idols. So we need to write these notes down, and that is what will be expected for us to have done for tonight's Navi homework. And remember, we are going to need these notes for our comic books that we're going to be creating for this Perek. Thank you so much. Have a great night.